So Shen, I think we should go as we always do. Like we should talk about part of history, like very straightforward, right? And
Um,
then we should probably turn to our modern understanding of biometric modalities and um, where they are used in the first place. Why do you need them, right? And later on, we can talk about um, the challenges and the problems that the various biometric modalities are facing today and where they're going to progress in the future. So it's like, um, a timeline of biometric modalities.
okay, then let's start with the past.
Okay, Shannon, let me ask you a very I'm actually asking this question to everyone in this chat. Can you think of the oldest biometric modality? Well, without explaining what really biometric modalities are, I'm just interested in your opinion about this. What is the oldest biometric modality like used in biometrics that you can think of?
I mean, the oldest. I don't know what the oldest is, but
No, I mean
for
one of the oldest, not the oldest.
fingerprints,
Yes, but how?
well, I how it was used. It was used for criminal databases, and in my
Yes,
case, coming to Japan as a foreigner, we had all of our fingerprints taken. So, in case a crime happens, they could check the foreigners first.
sure, but if we go even to even more ancient history, hmm?
Hmm.
What can? Yeah, just an interesting question. Well, even like mm, before Rome existed, like ancient Greek. So yeah, let me cut it to chase. Basically, while sealing some pacts, right, or sealing some documents of the ancient world,
World.
um, many times the wax was used for hand stamping, and in many different culture, also blood stamping was a thing. You would blood stamp your hand, or you would blood stamp your fingers on some document, and that blood would dry, having the form of your fingers and small lines on your fingers representing fingerprints. So biometric modalities for some kind of authentication and verification were used a long time ago in a non-digital way, right? And uh,
Yep.
that's what I was referring to. And actually, many of the hokus written by dying samurais were also scripted like this, with their
Yeah.
palms, their blood,
With,
their fingers,
with the
and stuff.
palm or their thumbprint. Yeah.
Yeah. So biometric modality itself is just some biological expression of your body, either physiological, uh, meaning that it comes from your body palms, or it can be on the lower level, also physiological but chemical. Like you can leave imprints of your cells or some DNA or some other fluids that your body creates, right? Biometric modalities in this case can be utilized as sort of biometric markers that are bound to a person and that identify this person, right? Um, and actually, biometric modality can be anything, almost anything on your body, because uh, everything is so unique about uh, every single person, starting from how your hair grows to, I don't know, how your skin stretches on different parts of your body, into your chemical solutions, into the form of pretty much your veins, and I don't know, so many different things that you can scan or take from a person and use it as a biometric modality. And since the ancient times to our modernity, the difference of various biometric modalities has grown, and um, basically right now you can see that monthly there are some new modalities used for digital scanning and everything. And if we're referring to modalities used in the digital world, we have to know about two main stages of uh, their evolution, right? So, first of all, um, we got to understand that there's computer vision involved in um, uh, checking modalities that are the most widespread on the scientific field and the market right now. So it is the like only one of the many ways we can actually read them. Shannon.
Mm. And well, yeah, because I mean, depending on, I guess, the modality that is used, I mean, how you read them would be very different. Um, Especially if you're using the camera, you know, you know, it's fairly limited. Otherwise, you'd have to use various paths or infrared scanning or drawing out the DNA and giving blood samples or whatever. So yeah. Mhm.
I mean, beside computer vision, there's like behavioral ones involving echolocation, infrared, like a lot of different approaches, right?
Yeah.
But the one that we saw in the movies the most times in the early 90s or 2000s, when biometrics were like first introduced into like our culture, is infrared fingerprint scanning. It's like
Yeah.
every single this evil suitcase of antagonist would have this scanning of his fingerprint. So implication was that the infrared signal will read the pattern of your finger, and that it would determine whether you're the same person or not. And
Yeah.
before talking about various eras of biometric modalities in computer vision and other fields, because this is used in very various fields of interacting with digital way of understanding your biometrics. Basically, we should talk about search and matching operations. And uh, search and matching operations are basically taking your biometrics and finding your biometrics in the database, you know, comparing them one to another, and then determining whether you're the same person or not, right? Um, and through that, there is a very big division in the history of how biometric modalities evolved and you were used with computer vision. And those are the deterministic use of uh, computer vision and probabilistic use of neural networks to kind of um, grasp the data that was collected by a camera or another feed, basically computer vision. The main difference between deterministic and probabilistic approaches is that um, imagine you tell a computer that if you see a square or a circle, and if the circle matches this circle or the square matches the square, then you are basically giving access to somebody, right?
Mhm.
When you boil, Shannon, you were saying something.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
If you boil that down, it really is like this. So deterministic approaches would see some patterns on their pixels and compare them to the patterns that they saw before, right? And if basically um, um, the length of the lines they're called vector. The length of lines between various pixels would be sufficiently, same. Then there would be a threshold, right, where the deterministic would computer would determine whether the shapes are the same or not. But in probabilistic approach, we actually use neural networks, uh, mostly in computer vision biometric modalities. There are used convolutional neural networks, and what they do is they basically learn to see you better, right? Uh,
Mhm.
but there is no like certain logic of how neural network understands what it sees, because we don't know what it sees and how it thinks after like third level of variables basically. And um, biometric modalities that are used today involved with the limitations and capabilities of the frameworks that can scan them, right? So we have like an evolved method of scanning through computer vision using neural networks, right? What should we use? What part of our body will we use for the easiness of use, and of course for our security, right? And as of now, it's common sense to say that the most widespread modality used for bioauthentication is fingerprints and uh, your face, right? They're predominant. They're used on the most digital logs that have biometric patterns, and other modalities comprise a very small portion of the market and the scientific field as it is. Some of the biometric modalities that exist right now are really bizarre, like scanning the shape of inside your mouth, and wrinkles on top of your lips, or yeah, or nails as well. Like a lot of them are bizarre, and you won't have a device turning around on the market that could support your verification through this. So yeah, facial and fingerprint recognition through computer vision. Either it's infrared or it's just computer vision through camera are the most widespread versions in the world.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously they're the most widespread in the world right now. But I guess one of the questions that I have is, there are, a lot of how should I say, common uh, modalities that could be used, I guess, that would have higher security or higher accuracy. But I are we limited? I mean, will we always be limited to the hardware available? Such as um, facial recognition. It um, and it's one of the most common, and of course we use it with liveness detection. But it always seems that um, it's not it's not really as accurate as others. For example, compared to, let's say, iris, which you almost think you use a camera, can't you do the iris scanning as well? But I mean, are there any other modalities that can be used?
It's a very interesting question, Shannon. Um, but while talking about modalities, we shouldn't take in consideration only the precision, because you can get really precise. Like really precise, like you can scan something from various positions, and you can do like infrared, electric scan. You can use computer vision, you can imprint it to a surface. Just like you can combine stuff a lot, but there are also other things, like characteristics, to discuss, when you're talking about a modality. So precision is one thing, right? But there's also like acceptability, right? There's like how easy, like collectability, how easy can you collect? Permanence, how persistent is the biometric modality? Universality, like how universal it is. How unique, because some things are more unique than others. They're not just unique or just not unique. Of course, how secure your biometric modality is. Is it like on that spot that everyone can see it and copy, or is it easy to copy? Yeah. How easy can you actually use this modality to authenticate yourself? Maybe you're using such a modality that's a very hard process. Maybe, I don't know. So there's like a lot of characteristics there besides uh, mm, precision. And in my point of view, the precision that we have right now for the face biometric modality is so high because the most capital was poured into it. Yes, the iris is very distinct, for the people, like really distinct. There's a lot of things that are different, but so are other parts of the body. Many other parts of the body are very unique, but they're not, as accessible as your face or your fingerprints. And uh, that much capital was not poured into biometrics, technologies that were aimed at other modalities. But little by little, we're having more body parts and more involved.
Yeah, because just simply from a standpoint of for example, uh, information out there. People post their faces on you know Facebook and other um, social media services. It comes back to liveness is the key for that. But yeah, you think if you're looking at uh, from a privacy standpoint, if it was available, of course, and fingerprints is one thing. Finger veins would be also something that would seem um, private, but yeah, as you say, I guess it really comes down to how much money is uh, put into um, building the data sets and understanding the modalities and making it available and accessible to everybody. And it's not like we have a hole on our iPhone where we can stick our finger in and get our finger veins scanned. So
And maybe we need one.
maybe we do.
But I don't know. I have a very bad joke in my mind. I won't say it.
Well, you're free to.
Well, I ain't gonna. So we might as well move on.
Yeah, well, with all these I mean, modalities available, um, I don't know. I might be jumping ahead too soon, but if you go through a white paper, we talk about a multi-modal biometric approach. Um, what what are we thinking of here?
So, yeah, actually, biometric multimodal approach was one of the centerpieces of biometric defense that I was thinking about a year ago, and it was really a question for me: does multimodality of the secure mechanism increase the defense, or maybe the whole point, maybe the whole defense is attached to the weakest point? Do you know? Do you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like we combine multiple modalities like finger, face, and your like ears. I don't know. And for example, maybe out of the three, ears are the weakest point. Uh, and well, if you're in a biometric scheme, you allow something to be attached only to that weakest point, then the whole purpose of multimodality only stands if only all parts are kind of working together. So applying various security levels to different modalities, um, and applying some of them separately to weak ones can be a very big angle of attack for a potential perpetrator. So the question, the debate here is between either using like uh, one but very sophisticated method for taking this modality into the scan, and purposing a lot of efforts to kind of make this modality work, or making the security multimodal, by upping the computation required for it, but lowering down the threshold for this particular for each particular biometric modality. And that's not still an open question.
No, let's just briefly ask everybody here if they have any questions or any comments. And if you do, just raise your hand. And if not, we'll continue on. So if you have any questions, please do raise your hand or type it out in Telegram. And as we have no questions here, Dato, let's continue. So we have a little bit about the past. We have uh, a little bit about the current uh, modern day eras.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the biometric modalities heading towards?
So people say that like some markets like crypto is booming, right? But there's just a lot of money in crypto market, and yeah, technologically speaking, a lot of happening as well, right? But there's so much happening in biometrics market, right? Like every single week there's something new, either approach or optimization of older approach, or increase of precision, or some startups or labs opening up uh, to do something. Like compared to 6 years ago, 5 years ago, it was just like I don't know, a wasteland. You would see some companies working in modalities because it was practically thought of that deterministic modalities are easy to kind of go around. You see, it was easy to fabricate the shapes and the patterns and the reach, like trying to reach the threshold required for the machine to, well, to have as a proper Sybil attack, right? And but right now, well, the modality of faces and even um, some fingerprints have gone to such a level that we have very low probability for already a big amount of people that they will be able to spawn a thing. So modalities and the way we read them has jumped a very huge leap. And I've said this many times. We've you know, combined the technological stack of Humanode in 2020, and we understood that it was possible on the numbers. But if we attempted to do this in 2017, it would have been impossible, literally impossible. And because anti-spoofing mechanism and the biometric modalities and the way we perceive and scan them were just not there. So it made like technological and infrastructure leap, and now biometric market is just booming. A lot of very great opportunities for investment as well present. It's just not as hyped as crypto, but if you think about it, and how biometrics isn't and optimize the way you interact with everything around you, it can be quite a huge market, like a very seriously big one. Um, and Nowadays, it's all about uh, expanding biometric modalities, finding um, um, the ways to increase precision and accessibility. Because in like 20 years ago, fingerprints and biometrics were a thing of like agent spy movies and stuff like this. Now every single toaster has it almost. And Another thing is also, and you can talk about this separately because it is a thing. If somebody is able to score 100% deterministic biometrics that are unspoofable, like where you don't need to use a neural network, but you're able to determine the uniqueness of a human being, and not based it on probabilistics, but on the determined data, then you will probably be able to move the whole industry way forward, because it will change the way we interact on networks, and I think it will perceive reality. And in my personal opinion, the person who finds the 100% anti-spoofing deterministics deserves a prize medal, like a Nobel Prize medal.
What are the um, biggest? I know uh, you're not exactly uh, the specialist in this, but what are the greatest challenges that we face using the current modalities? Some simple questions that come to my mind is like, well, if you have identical twins, are they able to? Would they be able to have separate accounts on Humanode, or would the facial recognition software see them as the same person?
It really depends on how trained is the model that you're using. If it's seen a lot of twins, then probably not. Well, there's a very small probability that it will. But if you're using iris or some other kind of modality, no way.
Yep. With Iris, they proved that they can figure out whether these are two people or just one when they look at the twins.
So, but for facial, we aren't there yet. But
Yeah, it
I'm
depends on
guessing,
how they're like each other.
yeah. So aside from twins, um, what are our greatest challenges right now in working with, uh, let's say, facial recognition?
Well, it depends on whether we talk about matching or anti-spoofing. I would say a huge leap in anti-spoofing would be made if we had infrared frontal cameras in our phones, because with the infrared it's easily check whether it's a real human being here or not. This is, the real adoption problem of this kind of hardware, and whether the producers of the devices do it or not. Because Iris was really awful on Samsung. It had no infrared and wasn't that accurate because of that. But other than that, Sharon, really, the improvements of the algorithms that take us to the next level of the accuracy, well, they are really in deep tech. I mean, sometimes people just optimize an algorithm and that's it. There's a huge leap, but they do it in an absolutely new way, using new methods for anti-spoofing each year as well. It's not just how you look at how the light falls on your face and so on anymore.
Cool. So, let's see, Dato, talking about Humanode and the modalities that we see coming, well, in the near future or the future. You have any thoughts or ideas on this?
I'm just thinking about Sharon. If you were interacting with some digital system, for example, a personal computer, right? What modality would be the easiest for you to use, and the most accessible, I would say, and giving you the less pain in one place?
I mean, well, obviously, if we're talking about the computers that we use now, I mean, facial recognition would be the most likely easiest. Could probably do ears. I guess it would depend on the quality of the uh, camera, the angle of the camera. Um, with some systems, you can use fingerprints. Not all of them, and most of the modalities that I think would be extra secure would require an extra piece of hardware, which doesn't make it very accessible.
Well, I mean, maybe it's our understanding, because this um, um, phone hardware companies are just stuffing our gadgets with computer vision and voice recognition and something like this. Maybe if they were oriented at other modalities, our devices would be different. That's what I'm saying.
That's true. And they could change very quickly. You know, uh, different phone manufacturers want to uh, be one step ahead of others and will think of new new gadgets to put in there to scan different modalities.
But
Hell, and eventually, when you get to the place, to the point in time somewhere in the future when people have, chips implanted into themselves, I'm quite sure I don't think we'll be carrying phones at that point in future, but everything will be designed to interact with the chip.
yeah, you're basically referring to the thing I wanted to discuss in the end of this call today, which are brain computer interfaces, of course, as we always do. Um, Actually, we studied them in our white paper many times ago, and um, well, as many of brain-computer interfaces read the various reactions of the brain and its activity, and it converts it to digital code. And hypothetically, of course, neurosignatures are um, very interesting modality. Neurosignatures are basically some form of pattern created by the brain that was, um, you know, so unique that it can be encrypted in different means that other patterns of the brain, and then the uniqueness of this pattern basically becomes the modality that is used for your biometrics. And you would be able to deploy it either through your motor cortex, or you'll be able to use linguistics or emotions. Basically, whatever you think about might become your biometric modality and actually tell the computer that that's you and not somebody else. But I mean, Shannon, when do you think is going to happen? In how many years?
Well, uh, I don't know, but with the pace of advancement in technology, I wouldn't